Welcome back to another Twin This Week in Nerd News number 31. In less than 5 minutes, I want to share with you some topics we need to pay attention to in our industry of technology and security. It is now August, and I'm back. Cancer took my precious sister Susie. But knowing how she was greeted after her earthly journey is what gives us peace. Well done, my good and faithful servant. So thank you to our teams for having my back while our family was at her funeral and Susie's daughter's wedding, my niece, the week after. So it was a bittersweet July for our family. Now, this week's news is taken entirely from Zach Whitaker's newsletter, starting with this story on PunkSpider. It's a controversial service, and it is a bit of a snitch on the insecurities of a website or service you might be using. And by running the extension, you can instantly see the website you're visiting, whether it has any vulnerabilities. The project owners want to see this level of transparency to force website operators into a more proactive, security-conscious mode, and I'm sure it will have that impact. Let's talk about Iran's secret cyber files. This should not come as a surprise to anyone that the collective knowledge on the insecure state of so many technology stacks that we depend upon can be organized into attacks. Whether this is a correct attribution of it being Iran almost doesn't matter, because the reality is that such rich targeting information isn't that difficult to obtain anymore to begin with. Apple. 13 0 days so far this year, the most ever in such a short time period. It's a good thing that the Apple ecosystem isn't fragmented, because updates tend to be available quickly, and most people update as quickly as we all should. However, this is an indication that we must rely on other domains of protection, not just on Apple keeping their OS up to date. And this is why we keep coming back to the importance of security gateways, taking a great deal of security responsibility and minimize the attack surface available on vulnerable devices. Let's discuss the NSO Group briefly. The name we keep hearing these days. They got a little too much media attention for their liking lately. They denied media reports that its Pegasus software is linked to mass surveillance of journalists and rights defenders, and yet they did suspend some government services after the news hit. Pegasus works by using 0 days to infect a phone that then is spied on by the license holder. And once again, proper protection is and can be facilitated to prevent an infected phone from exfiltrating data. And in this final story of today, we meet Paragon. Move over, NSO Group. There is another player in your sandbox. It seems we're only in the beginning of another mobile security pandemic when companies start to compete on mobile device weaknesses. Where does that leave us? Cool thing is, it brings our attention to the likes of Calyx OS, a Google Android competitor, as well as out-of-band security strategies that don't rely solely on vendors keeping us secure. I'm sure the rest of this year will be filled with much more in the way of mobile security problems and solutions. Now, did you know that Windows has a open source utility called Process Hacker, and it's free and open source? It reminds us of Process Viewer from sysinternals, but oh, so much more detail. Fascinating free tool for those of us who need to peek under the hood. Enjoy and see you next week.